Let me ask you a question. Have you ever told yourself, I just need to let it go? It might be a difficult conversation that you had or that's coming up and you're worried about it. Maybe it was a mistake you made, maybe a disappointment, a worry, maybe even a grudge, something somebody said years ago. And logically, we know that we should just let it go. But the problem is, I think that very often we can't let it go and nobody ever really explains how we let it go. And then sometimes, usually the harder we try to let it go, the more we seem to hold on to it, the more active it seems to be in our minds. And maybe then we're asking the wrong question in terms of, how do I let go? And maybe letting go isn't a specific technique at all. Maybe it's the natural consequence of seeing something differently so that it's effortlessly easier to let go. So here's a simple distinction that certainly helped change the way that I think about this. So imagine that if I placed a hot stone in your hand, would you need a book? Would you need to be able to read a book on letting go? Would you need training? Would you need a breathing technique? Would you need a weekend retreat or a week-long workshop? No, you wouldn't. You drop it immediately because you can see very clearly that it's hurting you, and holding on to it, the stone, hurts more than just instinctively letting go. And I think that's the power of clarity of mind. It's the power of realization. It's the power of seeing what's actually going on. And the moment you see what's actually going on, your relationship with it changes. And then letting go can happen just instinctively and naturally. Now, compare that, say, with something internal, that's creating a difficult emotion, like, say, resentment or stress or worry or pressure. What I've noticed over the years is that those kind of conditions, obviously, you could say they're a version of suffering. And we don't realize often that we create that suffering ourselves because that feeling that we have is coming from our reactions, which is our thinking. And we rarely hold on to things because we enjoy suffering. We kind of mentally hold on because somewhere in the background, we kind of believe that it's helping us. We kind of believe that worrying relentlessly about something will prepare us better, that holding a grudge will protect us in some way. Maybe replaying a conversation that happened that we didn't like will stop it happening again. Or maybe holding on tightly will somehow give us more control. But the irony is that the very thing that we believe is protecting us is often the thing that's hurting us, exhausting us, causing damage. But the moment that we get clarity of mind as to what's really going on, I think that illusion immediately falls away. And then again, letting go becomes instinctively natural, just like letting go of that hot stone. So how do you know that you've actually let something go? I think you notice how you feel. And it's not because feelings tell you the truth about your life or your circumstances. They don't. They're just an interpretation through your mind. But your feelings do tell you something about the quality of thinking that you're having in that moment. Because really, if you consider it, your thinking creates your experience. It's not the people, it's not your circumstances. Something I will continually keep coming back to in my work, but also in these podcast episodes, is that your thinking creates your experience. And that is quite a profound thing to sit with. So in that context, if you assume it's true, your feelings then become incredibly useful to you because they're giving you feedback. It's almost like an internal GPS. So if I'm carrying unhelpful feelings like resentment, worry, pressure, or maybe a story about myself that no longer serves me, I will feel it. So my mind gets caught up then in a direction that isn't helping me. And my feelings, in a way, are helping me to become more aware of, oh no, that's the wrong direction. And then when I start to see things more clearly, something will change. I'll get more clarity. I'll have a better idea about how to handle a situation or a conversation, or even myself. There's usually more ease in the system. So I know myself, if I can let go of a concern in my mind, it doesn't mean that I don't deal with the area of concern. My main concern, as I said to somebody recently, is to not be concerned in myself. So I still give it attention. I still deal with it. but I'm not winding myself up. I've found a way to let go because I realized it's better to have ease in myself, because that ease in myself gives more perspective. It brings in more presence, which links to flow. That flow state of mind is really priceless. And that's important because I think, an easier, more relaxed mind isn't a weaker one. Ultimately, it's a wiser one because you're tapping into more of that deeper intelligence that's inside you, that wisdom, that intuition. There's more creativity, there's better judgment, there's better perspective. And that's often the moment that you realize, oh yeah, okay, I've stopped holding on. It's good. I'm kind of more grounded. I can feel it. Now, maybe think about a worry that you've had recently. Maybe, it's a conversation in a few days' time. Maybe there's a financial concern, or maybe there's a business challenge, or maybe a family issue. But notice for some of those areas what your mind does. For many people, it will just keep replaying the concern, trying to maybe solve it, preparing for it, thinking it through one more time, as if holding on somehow improves the outcome. But does it really? Or does it simply burden the mind? I think it definitely burdens the mind for most people that I know. Now, one of the things I've noticed over the years, working with leaders and high performers in different fields, is that breakthroughs for them rarely happen because I give somebody a better thought. They generally happen because they suddenly see that the thinking that they've had was holding them back, was creating unease or dis-ease. And then they see the old thought differently. And I remember one client saying to me, and this has happened many times in different ways, I don't know what's happened, Shane, but that problem that's been weighing on me just doesn't seem to have the same grip on me anymore. And then I know we've landed something. We're going in the right direction. And usually nothing external has changed. The challenge is still there. The facts didn't change. Circumstances exactly the same. But what changed was, in a weird way, their relationship with what was happening in their mind, the relationship with their thinking, with the unhelpful thinking. And that changed everything. And what I find fascinating is, and this is, I'm somebody who, used to force myself without realizing it to try and let go, but that made things differently. And what I realized is when you realize that you're holding a hot stone, and the hot stone is unhelpful thinking, and then the clue is how you're feeling, weirdly, that when you realize, okay, that's happening, you simply stop holding on to that unhelpful thought. It brings more ease into your mind. And then you're creating the conditions for better clarity, better performance, and actually a better opportunity for an idea to help you with that situation. Now, if you could imagine that you're carrying, I'm a fan of hiking. Let's say you're carrying a heavy backpack up the hills all day, but after a few hours, you kind of stop noticing the weight. It just becomes normal. You're just getting on with it until you take that bag off your back. And then only then do you realize, wow, that was heavy. And I think the mind works like that many of us are carrying invisible psychological backpacks. And they come in the version of old stories, old fears, old identities, old approaches. They're just weighing us down, and we've become used to carrying them around. And we forget what it feels like to walk more lightly, more freely. So, some questions for you this week. And as usual, before I do that, just a little plug. I've released 3 audio bundle at the moment for very good value prices, 3 hours of high value, insightful content. It's taken from my 12 audio series, The Inner Advantage. The link is going to be in the show notes underneath this. The offer at the moment is you can get 3 for the price of just under 2. So check those out. If you like these podcasts, the long form audios go deeper, and my guarantee is that you will get more out of them as a result. So check them out if you're interested. So some questions for you. Right, where, in the context of what we've been speaking about here, where in your life do you think you're carrying some psychological weight that you no longer need? That maybe it's creating tension. That's the key. Look for where your thinking creates your tension. And bear in mind that, your mind might go, no, he doesn't understand. In this area, no, that is the situation. But I've just seen this too often in myself and my clients. Any way you can remove that psychological backpack of weight will help you see a solution quicker or see a way to handle the situation better because it'll make you feel better. So second question is, in that area that you've identified, what do you believe you're protecting by continuing to carrying that mental weight? Like, what is it doing for you? What's it protecting? Is it working? And then the third question is, what might just naturally fall away if you were open to letting go of your thinking around that particular topic? Like, if you realize that, oh, hold on, my thinking is like a hot stone. I didn't realize it was hurting me. And just be maybe at least curious or open to, could my thinking be hurting me? Could my thinking unwittingly be causing a problem here? And maybe there's clarity of an idea or a vision or a solution that's just waiting down in the deeper part of your mind, waiting to come up if you can find a way to just let that heavy thinking go. And to close out, maybe then what I'm saying is, like, letting go isn't something, it's not a technique necessarily. It's not necessarily something that you have to force happen in particular because it doesn't work. Maybe it's something that happens when you finally are open enough to see clearly mentally what you've been holding on to, unwittingly causing suffering and pain, like holding on to a hot stone and not realizing that's the problem. And to close it out then, I think, I suppose to me, maybe freedom, that mental freedom doesn't always come from adding something new like information. Maybe it comes from putting something down, from subtraction, from removal. And without a doubt, I've definitely found that life has a remarkable way of becoming lighter and more clearer and more manageable. Not because circumstances suddenly change or improve, but because the mind stops carrying what it was probably never designed to carry in the first place. And it's been trying to tell you through how you feel. It's been trying to tell you, listen, that's the wrong direction. Maybe consider letting this go. And that's it for this week. Ciao for now.